Hi, you're looking at a Sandtray. Today on Purview Coaching, we're going to look at how to use sand trays in your coaching. They're really powerful, and let me bring up my face here so you can see me. Here I am. So why you want to use them is because often you're dealing with somebody who's been through a trauma, been through an experience. They didn't want to talk about it. Maybe it's embarrassing. Maybe it's post-traumatic stress disorder, and you really need to do the advanced work in our training before you can go there or get certified elsewhere. But sand trays is really good. I remember my grandfather didn't want to talk about the World War One. My dad didn't want to talk about World War Two and the Korean War he was in. And I didn't really want to talk about Vietnam when I came back. So, if you deal with trauma, it affects the whole family. So one of the things you can do is have the whole family sit down, each of them with a sand tray, and pick things out without talking. So that's the whole thing. So the next part, I'm just going to keep the talking to a minimum because people don't want to talk about it sometimes, and that's important. So let's start in with the sand tray, okay? So here I placed a golf ball, horse, oh, maybe the palm tree. What else is fun? The bolt. Yeah, compass would be interesting. There's not much instruction to this. Just tell the client, uh, pick out things that represent your life from birth until now, and don't talk about it. So, one instruction I like to use is pick out things that have some energy. You just pass your hand over it. If you want to do this and see, okay, yeah, that bullet shell has some energy. And this one too. Whoa. Yeah, there's one. It's a rifle shell. So I find working with veterans and their families in particular that children will, in family, will pick out things rather rapidly and pick out more things where adults, this is their first time doing it. Sometimes they'll just pick out a few things. They're not sure what goes together. Uh, and then they're on their way. Whoa, that was interesting. It's got a thorn. All right. And let's see. Okay. So let's give you an example. Suppose somebody picks a heart, uh, and they put that in the sand tray. And let's say later on, you say, you want to talk about anything? And they say, no, that's fine. And I'll just say, okay, rearrange the items from beginning to end, however that is. So I'm going to go beginning to where I am now and arrange the few objects here. There we go. Um, let's say it's like this. Okay. So you can take objects in, move them around, place them anywhere you want. So let's just review first phase, pick out objects. You have a bunch of them around the house, buy some more little toy objects, and then ask the client to get some sand that's good. Go and get the good sand. Don't get it out of your backyard, or you'll find you have ants or something growing in it. Get some good play sand, children's play sand. And I like these plastic containers because you can see through the sides of them easier, lets the light in for filming. All right, so let's take a look at this. Suppose each person then around a big table has a sand tray, or you could just be working with one client. And you say, okay, I want you to arrange your sand tray, and they could make designs in the sand. You don't have to give them hardly any instruction at all. Just whatever has energy for you, lay it out. Now, later on, they may say, yeah, I don't mind talking about some of this. So they'll pick out what they want to talk about, what they don't want to talk about. Now, the nice thing about the objects is they pick an object and it has an energy for them, pulls up a particular memory. It's not the usual way in which they talk about it, let's say in a bar with a bunch of their buddies or something else. So it's not the usual way. So even if it's not a trauma, it's a really good use of materials. It's a good tool to get people talking about their life in a way they hadn't talked about it before. So suppose we take them through the purview. So characterize your life at its best. I say, well, obviously here, um, coming out of Vietnam, I met my wife who's into Jainism, and I adopted that, and that got me meditating, really nice. And horses, I started riding horses. So this is the nicer part of my life. And I found my compass, the direction of my life. So let me put that over there. Also, managed to get a Harley Davidson even before I met my wife, now Grace Ann. So I had a path leading from this part to here. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about? How would you externalize yourself is not the problem, and the problem is the problem. So what would you say? What would you give it a name? Give it a character? Oh, I'd say if I'm looking at the character here, these characterize my life. Let me see. I would say um, it was um, bullets. Bullets were my life. Okay, so bullets is the problem. Okay. Um, and you're not the problem. You're a great person. Okay, fine. So we've externalized the problem. We can do the view. Um, what are the vibrations I'm experiencing now in my body? Well, I'm a bit tense talking about Vietnam, so a little shaky. Uh, what else? Thoughts in my mind is that was a really dark period in my life. All right. Anything else? Yeah. Okay. What were your uh, energy? What's your energy in looking at this sand tray? Well, here the energy is low. I'd give it a three. Up here it gets to be six, seven, eight, 10. So it depends on where you are. Okay, very good. Now let's collapse the wave, the the W in view. We're going to collapse the wave here. What would you like to have happen? Well, I'd like to have this be a small part of my memories and this be a bigger part. So, okay, well, let's work on that. Now, the next thing, if we go through purview, uh, is what are the consequences of this? Revise is to revise it to show the consequences of this habitual structure of the war story, um, the thorny past. I get stuck in these thorns and they hurt. Okay. So that's it. The bullets, I was never one for killing people. So the bullets were kind of not very good, but I was a sharpshooter, so I could shoot really well. And it's kind of the roll of the dice, whether I'm going to live or die. So, all right. So at this point, the person may shift um, their externalization. Like, for example, the roll of the dice seemed to have a lot of energy. The bullets had a lot of energy, but the person might switch from bullets to dice. Okay. And that's interesting. So now um, we skipped a step called sympathize or empathize. What's keeping this habit of storytelling in play? Something is keeping it in play. Well, everybody asked me, was I in the military? What branch? Um, Thank you for your service, and I'm right back here, and I'm not over here. So that's one thing. Okay, so yeah, and how would you characterize that? Well, I'm, proud that I served my country, but I did get Agent Orange, so that's kind of the thorny part. Okay, so that's an issue that keeps going here throughout until I got treatment and a lot of radiation and that thorny part. We can bury that in the sand now because it's gone. I'm going to take it out so nobody else sticks themselves and with Agent Orange here. Um, and they could have other ways of representing Agent Orange too. Maybe they just picked an item that was orange and it goes all the way through their life until they find treatment, get in a clinical trial like I did, and they're very, very lucky. All right, lucky with the dice. Now, uh, once we've done characterize, externalize, sympathize, revise, looking at consequences, now we're going to strategize. What are some little wow moments where, let's see, it wasn't the luck of the dice, but a little wow moment, an exception to the rolling the dice? And say, okay, well, I started to take some steps here, and they were hard steps. Divorce, estranged from my family, didn't get tenure at a big university, but then started over, did a lot of riding in my Harley, found a new university, really excelled there. So yeah, I met my wife. I learned Jainism, met the guru, went to India. I mean, this was a really important time in my life, finding meditation. Um, so I kind of found the compass direction for my life. So instead of rolling the dice, I'm seeing a future. It's like Abe Lincoln says, if you want to be able to predict the future, create the future you want. So I wanted, stability, love, spirituality, got those things. They came with horses. I've got just got a new horse now. Let's say that's a new one, Fancy Girl. My other horse is getting older, Lucky Boy. Still have both of them still there. Okay. So you've got a number of these little wow moments, the Buddha, the Harley, the compass, the horses, finding Grace Ann, the new marriage here with this blue stone. All right, very good. So what we're going to do now is have you rehistoricize and tell me about all of this, except I want you to take out all the bullets, take out the dice, take out anything you want, and yeah, I'll get rid of the Army Jeep. Yeah, I was a golf pro in Vietnam, but I never played again. Um, just take out the whole golf thing, and I like traveling the world, giving presentations on what I'm doing, so I'll put that in. So you can put things in, take them out, you can bury things, you can change the path, uh, spread it out differently. So, and I'm now reconciled. My ex-wife died, but I love her anyway, where she is, and my children and I are reconciled. Um, that whole family thing is working really good. I'm traveling a lot, and I come home to the horses. Seem to have a direction in my life. I like the spiritual side. I got rid of the Harley. I'm 77. I didn't need to be risking my life in a Harley anymore. So that's gone. Okay, so you see that person has rearranged the sand tray and it looks less cluttered. It's got a storyline, a story arc to it. So they're redoing their history, focusing on the little wow moments, maybe even bringing in some other ones where uh, say, well, I had some Reiki with people, and now I've got kept my Christian faith, and I also have my Jainism. This is Mahavira, not Buddha, but yeah, it's a metaphor. And I might just put this chain around that. No, horses are in the chain. So is my traveling. Okay, so there you are. So at this point, a person has developed their story to the point. Let me bring back the other camera. So the person has developed their Sandtray experience, been able to move things around emphasize new activities, you know, maybe made some things out of pipe cleaner, uh, taking things out of the sand tray, put other things in. It's helps them take control of their story and create the story they want for their future rather than staying stuck in a story filter that filters everything through my Vietnam experience, for example, or my Agent Orange, the cancer that was with it. So since I've gotten through the cancer, I don't need to keep telling people, oh, I had cancer. I'm not embarrassed about it, but, and I do tell people, I met somebody the other day that was in a, one of those rock stores. They sell stones and quartz and things. And the lady said that her brother had cancer and it was stage 4. And I said, well, I had stage 4 and I recovered and I got medication. I didn't rely on the local doctors. Okay. I went to uh, um, MD Anderson, Houston, Texas, I think the best people in the world about these different cancers. And I got in a clinical trial. That meant I didn't have to pay for the medicine. I didn't have to pay for the radiation sessions, the consultations. I had to pay my airfare back and forth and my hotel and my food. But hey, it was a really good deal. Uh, and so I recovered. I explained that story. I wrote down the name of the main doctor that got me in a clinical trial and really knew his stuff. And hopefully that'll help. So I do have access to that story, but it's not taking over my whole life. I hope that helps you understand it. And when I have the horses, I find a lot of joy from the horses, I'll tell you. I find if I ride the horse before a presentation like this, wow. And fancy, fancy girl, the new horse, she's very beautiful, but she's been abused. People were using children that didn't know better, I hope, were whipping her, spurs, kind of making her do, where they ride real fast and rope something that looks like a sheep or a cow or something. And and that's not fancy girl. Fancy girl is needs to be treated with respect. And I treat her that way. So we're getting to be good friends. So that gives you some ideas, sand trays. Now, some cautions. If somebody puts a heart in the sand tray, don't assume that they have a broken heart or they have a love affair or whatever it is. Each item is particular to that person's life and their meaning of events in their life. So keep that in mind. There are some Sandtray people, I think the majority, that categorize the objects. If they choose a heart, well, it means this. If they choose a bullet, it means something else. You know, but let the person define what it means. It's their story, and we ask permission to do the Sandtray. We stop at any point. And we can break it up into a number of sessions. For example, I often do setting up their life from beginning to now, take them through the purview steps. I might have another session where I split it up and maybe just do the characterize your life in one session, do externalize, right, and sympathize in another session, and bring them back another time and see if they put the thing together the same way. Maybe they choose slightly different objects. Maybe they put more in there. Maybe they've had time to reflect. And they'll take them through revise, looking at the consequences, then strategize. The little while moments, very important little while moments. You got to have at least 5 of them where so that means you have to stop and if they're willing to talk about it, say yes. If they're not willing to talk about it, have them just point to the object that represents something important, like the compass, you know? And okay, so that would be a little while moment finding the compass, the Buddha, or my case, Mahavira, the horse, finding that, getting back on the circuit again, going to different places in the world like I am now, going to Australia to do this purview coaching in Brisbane, Australia, with a couple of universities. So that's you can break the sessions up over several weeks or several days, or you can do them all in one shot. Now, what I'll often do is uh, let them talk as a family if I'm doing family or group or teamwork of executives, whatever it is. And I do this with doctoral students and executives, managers. I find it a very versatile technique. And, and then I can say, okay, I've noticed that you each have different sand trays, and your sand trays are quite different in terms of what you want. Um, Dad wants to get a bunker and bury it in a mountain top somewhere and get a Hummer. His wife wants to go to the beach and have a Toyota Prius, an electric vehicle. The daughter wants a new cell phone. The son wants, some gear for his basketball career. So so we need to get alignment to happen. So one of the things you can do is sand trays and have people talk about their story with each other. And you as a coach are not doing a lot, just facilitating, and then asking them how could we align some things each of you want. So maybe the Hummer stays, but we're not going to live in a bunker, wait for the apocalypse. And maybe the daughter gets a new cell phone, the son gets the basketball stuff, and they agreed on a place they want to live, how they want to live, so they can start laying out the sand tray together or modifying their own trays. A couple different ways you can do it. And because you need to get a family in alignment about what story they want to live in, which stories they want to bury in the sand, and de-emphasize or recast it. And restoring means you're taking the elements of one's life and you're giving them different meaning. That's bringing out little wow moments. Anyway, I find Sandtray tool to be highly effective, and I look forward to you using it, sending me a note, send me pictures. I have um, people send me pictures of their sand trays and the new sand tray they formed after Purview coaching's 7 steps. So thank you very much.